my name is Alexis Bruemmer, and I'm a Senior Engineering Manager here at DigitalOcean. I'm here today to talk to you about one of my favorite topics, and that is scaling distributed teams. I have been working here at DigitalOcean for about 3 years. I have worked remotely the whole time that I have been here. My team is composed of 19 engineers that are distributed across 4 countries and 6 different time zones. Our mission is the DigitalOcean systems engineering team is the operating system that runs on the servers that compose the DigitalOcean fleet. We have teams that focus on systems level performance, a team that is composed of kernel level experts, and a team that supports the virtualization stack that houses our virtual machine or droplet based offerings. This is not the first fully distributed remote team that I have managed. I have managed teams that have been almost completely global in every time zone. I've also managed teams that are composed of distributed office locations as well as remote employees. I find a lot of benefits in being a remote employee. I appreciate the work-life balance that it gives me, and in fact, I share my primary office space with 3 equines, a barn cat, and currently a boxer puppy. Being a remote employee has allowed me great work-life balance and flexibility. I feel like I can be effective in my career, as well as being at home and available for my son as a mom. I also am able to enjoy things in life that are important to me, like having a hobby farm and horses. It's not only a benefit personally for me, but I also feel like having a remote distributed team provides benefit in building a very strong team. Specifically, it expands your talent pool. If you're looking for very specialized skills, like kernel skills or systems level performance engineering skills, it sometimes can be really hard to find talent when you have to narrow based on a geographical location. Allowing that pool to be more global certainly expands the number of strong talent that you're able to recruit for. It also provides schedule flexibility on projects. If you're in a support situation where you have to support a product over a 24-hour period, having a global team allows you to do that. And also, if you can manage correctly, provides an opportunity to have async development on our project. And it turns out that me as a manager is not the only one that appreciates work-life balance, but having the ability to enable your folks to work from home and work from anywhere is very enticing and allows you to really recruit that top talent. There are trade-offs. Minimal personal face-to-face time can be a challenge in building relationships and team camaraderie. Also, working across time zones can be a challenge. Not having a full overlap of your day when you're working on a project with someone is definitely a challenge, and async communication is also a challenge. And certainly as a manager of a remote and distributed team, you really have to work to enable your team and coach them through the challenges of being in a remote environment. But overall, the key to building a successful distributed team means the fundamentals mostly stay the same. Having a really good recruiting and interview process that allows you to find the right talent and retain that top talent is crucial. Strong team leadership and management skills is also crucial. Motivating your team, rallying them behind a cause and a unified mission that does not change. And communication, frankly, communication is hard. It gets harder when you're in a remote team. And I do feel like as a manager, because communication is so hard, it has kept me well employed to make sure that a team communicates well. Now, that all said, when you have a remote team, some of these things you have to customize the execution a bit. And today I'm going to go through and talk to you about things that I've learned over the years to more effectively run and lead these distributed teams. So finding remote talent, again, the great thing about having a remote team or having a remote talent pool is it makes it much, much larger. It's great to be able to pick from that very large talent pool. However, it does mean that screening candidates can be much more challenging. So the first step to that is having a clear job description and desired skill set, just running through the process of defining the type of job and work it is that you're looking to hire for, as well as the desired skills that you need to accomplish that job, is a really good exercise to understand the kind of candidate that you need to target. But articulating that in a way that's visible for potential candidates really helps bring in the right style of talent. A strong interview plan is another one. Having a defined set of interview stages so that the process stays consistent. Here with this team at DigitalOcean, what I've done is we start with a recruiter screen and then ask the basic screening questions. We have a manager screen where I go through candidate CV history from the very beginning all the way to their current position and talk about what work they've done, how they fit in the team, what they enjoyed, what they didn't. It's a very telling process about what that person is looking for to work in the future and where they've been successful in the past. We have a technical screen that asks the same set of questions. Then we have a wider technical panel with various folks either on our team or teams that person would be collaborating closely with that ask the same set of questions or exercises for each of the person that's on the interview panel. And that has been a very effective process for screening candidates and making sure that we get the right people in the right roles. Having a set interviewers list, again, keeping things as consistent as possible. Having the same folks interviewing makes a huge difference because it allows you to have the same viewpoints for every candidate that comes in. Now, it always happens, you find a really great candidate, they have other offers on the table, you have to get the interview done quickly, you have to substitute one of the folks in your interviewees list or interviewers list because somebody's on vacation. But I really do try to keep it as consistent as possible. Clear expectations. Make sure that your candidate, when they're coming in, has clear expectations on what the job description is and what the desired skill set is that you're looking for, but also make sure that the interviewers know what the job description is, what the skill set is that you're looking for, as well as what level you're interviewing for. Are we looking for somebody that's just out of college? Are we looking for somebody that has 10 years of experience and is an SME in their particular area of knowledge? A defined set of questions and exercises. I mentioned this before, but again, it's all about keeping the process consistent. Screening one candidate against another, having the same set of questions makes a big difference in being able to compare. When you have a very large pool, again, keeping things consistent really helps in the screening process. Interviewing remotely. If somebody's going to be working remotely, they should interview remotely. And in fact, we have interviewed candidates before that have only worked in office locations and are really excited about the prospect of working remotely. And then we have interviewed candidates that have only been in office environments before and interview with us remotely, and we're really feel like they're a good fit from a skills perspective, but during the interview process, they'll realize, well, this isn't what I want to do. Like, having to collaborate people remotely doesn't give me the same feeling as being in the office, and that's what I really desire to do. So it gives the candidate an opportunity to get a feel for what it's like to work in that remote environment. Onboarding plan, again, this is very important regardless of whether you're in the office or remote. It becomes more critical when you are onboarding remotely, making sure that you have a clear checklist that is accessible for somebody, so when they're coming on, they can actually get access to all the tools and communication forums that they're going to need to have in order to be effective in their job, as well as making sure that they have a list of material that needs to be covered or read in order to learn about the functionality of the space that they'll be working in. Also making sure that they have a mentor or buddy that they get connected with immediately as part of the onboarding process makes a big difference on how effective people onboard. So leading remote teams, again, the fundamentals don't change. However, a few of the execution tips that I've learned over the years. Regular stand-ups become even more important. I did this as a local manager as well, but those regular stand-ups in a remote environment provides the opportunity for that day-to-day touch point. When you have a remote team, you have to be even more proactive when understanding when somebody's blocked, providing opportunities for maybe a less junior person to seek advice from a more knowledgeable engineer, having the daily standouts where folks talk about what it is that they're planning to accomplish, what they have accomplished, and where they're blocked, naturally allows those discussions to happen. Opportunities for daily video touch points is also very important. Working remotely, you don't have the face-to-face time that you would see in the office. Having the video touch points allows for high bandwidth discussion, but it also provides an opportunity for people to better collaborate. Common place for tracking team deliverables. Again, this is something that's critical for an office team as well. However, it becomes even more important when you have a remote team. If somebody knows that there's a single source of truth for what the priority work items are, what their priorities should be, what's next in the queue, it certainly makes it much easier for them to know, not only what it is that they're working on, but what's most important for the team. Planned in-person, face-to-face time. I feel like this is very critical in supporting a remote team. I always try to make sure that the team has an opportunity to get together face-to-face at least 4 times a year. Now, not everybody can do that due to family restrictions, but I do try to make that opportunity as a manager, whether it be a full team offsite, a sub-team offsite, a conference, or a larger company event. By making sure that those opportunities for people to meet in person is really crucial for building relationships and camaraderie among the team. But it's also something that face-to-face time is the best place to have some of those harder, longer-term roadmap discussions or architectural level discussions. Encouraging remote collaboration. Again, encouraging collaboration is important regardless of whether you're local or remote. However, as a remote manager, it becomes even more important because it's very easy for somebody to be siloed from the rest of their team. So, for example, especially if you have a new person coming on, if I don't see them active in a Slack channel or on IRC, I'll ask them questions to get them talking. Again, making sure that we have those touch points via video on a regular basis, whether it be a stand-up or a knowledge sharing session, or we have a lot of times what we call team happy hours, where on a Friday everybody sits down in whatever time it is for them, sort of towards the afternoon, and there's no work discussions. It's just all fun. So finding those times, or making sure you encourage those collaborative moments and team building moments, and then encouraging collaboration with other styles of tools, which we'll talk about a little bit later. Proactive support, coaching, and mentorship. Again, this is something that's critical, whether you have an in-office team or a remote team. However, I feel like as a manager, you have to be more proactive, given that providing support means that you're responsive, that employees know when it is that you're going to be online, and they should expect to get responses from you, or when you need to step away. Whether you have a sick kid or you're sick, people need to know when it is that you can be reached. The goal there being that no matter what, when they're online, they feel like they're supported. Coaching and mentorship is another thing. I always make sure that I keep weekly one-on-ones with my direct reports. It provides opportunity to talk about career development, to talk about areas of coaching and growth, and also providing mentorship programs so that people have other opportunities to be connected with other folks at work that may not even be necessarily within their team. And then time zone awareness. This is an important one. When you have teams that are widely distributed, understanding what people's work hours are, when you should expect them online and when you shouldn't. I work on the West Coast. I have team members that are in Europe. I'm very conscious not to ping them in my afternoon, obviously. And then I'm also very, very aware of what their work hours are. And then leading by example in this case is also very important. Again, I make sure that my direct reports know when it is that, my work day is, when they should expect to see me or have me around, and when they shouldn't. If it is, at the end of my day and I get a ping from someone that isn't business critical or urgent, I purposely won't answer it until the start of my business day. And the goal there being, one of the things with having a remote team and a set of passionate engineers that work remotely is people can burn out. They'll feel like they need to work 24/7 to get a goal done. And leading by example and making sure that, you shut down at the end of your day, and enabling your team members to feel like they can shut down at the end of the day makes a big difference in long-term motivation and support. Speaking of motivation, again, a lot of these things are, relevant whether you have a local team or a distributed team, but I consider them even more critical with a distributed team. So keeping the team mission visible. In the systems engineering, the leadership team, we spend a fair bit of time making sure that we have a strong mission that aligns with the overall business goals, and that deliverables that the team is working on aligns not only with our mission, but with the business goals. The systems team, each IC in that team should know what the work that they're working on today and how that aligns with the mission as well as with the overall business goals. Encouraging camaraderie, and again, we've talked a little bit about this already, but for example, when I start a video conference, if it's something that I'm running, and open source engineers are and my history of historically always been late to meetings, but as people join, I'll encourage a bit of the water cooler talk, whether it be something funny about their background, or joking about the weather, depending on what region of the world you're in. Something that is funny on social media recently, something funny that happened in a previous meeting, but something just to get people talking. Not necessarily about work-related stuff, but also encouraging the team to speak up about other team members if they've done something that's been helpful, or they found impressive. And encouraging the team to be vocal and honest about their concerns, encouraging others to listen, to have strong opinions about things, but definitely be open to listening to the other side and being open to admitting when you're wrong. So all of those things, and creating that environment to encourage that camaraderie. Proactive listening, again, this is another one that's critical as a manager in general, but with a remote team, I feel like there's nuances here that I've learned over the years and can be challenging. The first being watching trends for employees, what their common Slack patterns are, how often they're communicating, or IRC patterns. Seeing their involvement in Hangouts, making sure I have those weekly one-on-ones with them, and I'll always ask about a little bit about their day or how things are going. If I notice a difference in in any of those trends, or see them working long hours or something doesn't feel like the norm, I'll immediately go and ask directly, how are you doing? How are things going? And oftentimes, I get, things aren't going well. My kid has been sick for several weeks and we're really tired, or, I'm really frustrated with this project and I feel like I'm not getting the support that I need. So being really proactive, not just listening in those active conversations, but also watching employees' reports, communication styles, and noticing trends when those change. Rewarding performance. One of my favorite ways of rewarding performance, and what I feel like is often most successful, is as soon as somebody has done something, whether it's handle a customer escalation really well, or and complete a deliverable on a large project, or working with the open source community on something that may be controversial or challenging, and them really pushing and influencing that community in a way that's positive for us, whatever it may be. At the moment that it's happened, or while it's still fresh, I'll go directly to them in a direct message and say, hey, how you did X, Y, or Z was really great. I was impressed by it. I'd love to see more of it. Really good job. And that's a very effective tool to not only show employees that you support the good performance and you appreciate it, but also to encourage those good behaviors. Obviously, that's not a replacement for monetary-based awards or all the other industry-based standards that we have. But as a manager, it's something that you can do day to day that you're empowered to do and is extremely effective for motivating employees. Being responsive, and again, making sure that employees know when you're going to be available, when you have to step away. But if you do get an instant message from them or some type of ping, making sure that your response is quick, immediate, and in a way that people feel like they're supported. Now, obviously, the day gets busy; it doesn't always happen that way. However, the more that you can be responsive, the more people feel like they're supported. And again, leading by example in this one, at the end of the day, when people know that you should be away, I shut down. If I see a Slack or an IM that comes in after my regular working hours, if it's not business critical, I'll ignore it. I'll wait to respond until the start of my business day again. Remote communication. Again, communication is always critical regardless of your team makeup. However, in a remote environment, communication gets even more challenging, and focusing on really effective team communication is important. The first fundamental to this for me is that making sure everybody is on an equal playing field. Meaning that even if you have some folks that work in an office, if your team has remote employees or you have a distributed team where not everybody's in the same location, then you need to make sure that all your communication tools that the team uses is remote, that everybody uses the communication tools. Otherwise, communication gets lost across geographies, and you'll have communication gaps based on geographical zones. So really making sure that the whole team is connected with the remote communication tools and are using those tools in order to communicate on an equal playing field is very important. So some of the tools that I have found vital in supporting remote teams, obviously I've mentioned this several times, instant messaging, whether that be Slack or ISU, whatever it is that you use, but having that very dynamic communication tool where people can have those dynamic discussions is quite critical. The other nice thing about having these instant message tooling, for example, Slack, is it allows you to have a channel of experts on a certain topic where somebody can ask a question and knowledge share. And that actually, in my mind, a lot of times is a more of a benefit for the remote style communication than a localized office. Video conferencing, we've talked about this quite a bit, but if you have a high bandwidth discussion that's needed, it's really important. I see it often with the team where they'll start a technical discussion. They realize right away that it needs to be a high bandwidth discussion. They say, hey, let's take this to a hangout and video conferencing, and a bunch of people jump on and they'll have that discussion at a higher bandwidth, and it makes a big difference. Video conferencing is also very helpful in building stronger relationships against folks. You'd be surprised how effective being able to see somebody when you're communicating with them helps in building those relationships. Obviously, GitHub is a fairly industry standard when it comes to code collaboration and things like code reviews. We use that extensively here at DigitalOcean. I've used it in previous jobs. Google Docs, it doesn't have to be Google Docs, but any communication like documentation or slide or board-based tool that allows for dynamic contribution from multiple folks. Google Docs is a good example. We do use that heavily here, whether that be for creating RFCs or taking meeting notes or doing a brain dump. It's very effective. And then a good old-fashioned email. Sometimes I feel like these days feels dated to many people, but it is a really good tool for sharing detailed status about a project across multiple groups, or starting a technical discussion that's going to have multiple threads. Don't forget about the email. It can be a very, very useful tool for distributed teams. Finding a safe place for teams to communicate. Always make sure in team meetings like Hangouts that I provide an opportunity for people to voice concerns, whether I ask about a company all hands and people's feelings about them, or what concerns do you guys have today. Just making sure that I provide those opportunities, in a team setting as well as in a one-on-one. I do also with this team, and I've had in previous teams where I do a private IM channel or Slack channel. I find that useful when you have junior engineers that want to ask questions that may not feel like they can do it outside of a team that they don't know. It also is helpful in making sure that you have a good sense for the morale of the team, giving people a place to vent or raise concerns or issues in a local team channel that feels much more safe than a public channel. That said, as a manager, I do also believe, in transparency as a default. One thing that you have to be careful of with things like private channels is, good technical discussions really should be happening in the open so that other teams can see that and either, weigh in with ideas or just have visibility into the types of challenges that your team is facing and solving. Weekly one-on-ones with directs. Again, I think this is important regardless what team that you're managing. But I find it even more important for providing an opportunity to build relationships remotely with direct reports. Again, it allows you an opportunity for proactive listening, to talk to them about, life things outside of their daily work and, how things are going, for them to have an opportunity to voice concerns and bring up issues with you. It's also a really good place for career development discussions. I always tell my employees that, one-on-ones are your time. Come to me with a list of things that you want to talk about. But if you don't come to me with a list, then I will, fill the hour that we have together. So the one-on-ones are very effective in building relationships with your direct reports, making them feel supportive, but also getting good insight in how they're feeling about the job, or how they're feeling about their project being successful, or their career being, on the path that they're hoping. Encourage water cooler chat. Again, this is talked a little bit about this earlier, but building that rapport with the team. Of private Slack channels with the team, can be about what's funny on social media, or the weather today, or here's a funny picture of my dog. Those types of discussion really does build camaraderie in the team and give you a sense of almost family with your team. Also, encouraging the same kind of discussions at the start of a hangout. Obviously, none of us want to spend time in meetings more than we have to, but having a little bit of that banter, you'd be surprised at how quick that, uplifts the mood and puts the meeting on the right track, as well as makes people feel engaged in the discussion. And finally, plan face-to-face events. Again, you're saving money on office costs as a company when you have remote employees. But you really need to invest in making sure that your employees have an opportunity to get together face-to-face on a regular basis. Again, I try to make the opportunity for folks to get together face-to-face at least 4 times a year, whether it be team offsites, conferences, larger DO-related or larger company-related events. It makes a big difference in building those strong relationships within the team, but it also gives you opportunities to talk about some of the more challenging discussions around long-term roadmap and strategy, harder architectural style discussions. Really need to have those on a regular basis face-to-face. And that's my content for today. I hope that you enjoyed it and you found it useful. I thank you for your time and listening today. You have my email there. Feel free to reach out to me with any questions. And again, I appreciate your time listening today. Thank you very much.